What's going on, everybody? It's Frito here for Clickheads. Big balance news update for you. Riot Morello, character design lead for Valorant, was on his own personal live stream letting loose all sorts of information on upcoming balance tweaks to Jett Omen and Viper, as well as commented more on future agents, battle pass, and more. First up, I think, is the agent that sticks out like a sore thumb balance-wise, and that's Jett. Character that I think a lot of players want to play aggressively, but here, Riot Morello breaks down the design philosophy of the character and what direction they're going to be taking her to try to improve her a bit.
Because she's getting more pick rate, but still not very good now. If you can count on them to do the pick dashes and to play off angles really well and escape those situations. But I think her reliability is just too low. So Jett, we're looking to do buffs. We want to up her reliability. We're not doing the thing where she can shoot out of her dash. The dash is meant to be an escape and evasion and timing tool, not a combat rush tool. I know it'd be very fun. It would be cool. It would make her good. It's not the kind of thing we want in the game.
Although that might be very disappointing for some that want to have Tracer-like movement in Valorant. Instead, Morello points out that top-level pick rates for Jett have been increasing as the best players in the world have been maximizing what she can do. And in short, that playstyle in a nutshell is getting on aggressive angles that you normally wouldn't be able to hold without getting traded out, especially using a gun like the Operator, getting your early pick, and then using the dash to get out quickly before you can get run down. That part of her definitely works, but Morello here is talking about her reliability overall, which I might go to venture a guess that might mean a buff to her smokes, or perhaps even something as crazy as reducing the cost of her ultimate. Either way, though, we can expect that she's not going to be able to whip up her weapon right away after dashing, as Morello has distinctly said that type of gameplay is not intended for the character. Next up, we're going to talk about everyone's favorite edgelord agent. Omen is getting some buffs as well. This is what Morello had to say.
We're going to be updating his targeting for his smokes pretty substantially. We're going to be updating his Q and just making it better and bigger and easier to hit with and more reliable. Everything looks better. Everything's been polished. And then we're doing a change that I'm not going to tell you about. It's very quality of life. I think it'll be a buff. We're doing something secret with the ultimate that I think will be a buff. And the local teleport, we are not changing for this patch. I have a surprise for the ult. We're going to be doing something cool for the ult that I think people will like. Dying when you trying to solve that when you ult, sometimes you just die.
Okay, I apologize if that was confusing. Morello rattled off a lot of changes there. Important to note that visual upgrades is coming to this character and more, we'll get to that. But possibly the biggest buff hidden in that long strain of changes was a buff to his Q ability, Paranoia, better known as his flash or maybe blind effect. Making it bigger means it's going to hit targets a lot more reliably, which I think is actually going to be a massive buff. I think we all know the power of a high-level breach player. Well, Omen might be able to replicate some of that really powerful entry play if Paranoia is big enough to reliably zone out an area. We'll have to see the extent of that buff to really make a call on it, but otherwise the change to the ultimate might draw the most attention here, but I think that Paranoia buff might low-key be the biggest meta changer, but sounds like he's saying the ult either is safer when you teleport somewhere or you come out of it faster. He explicitly said that they want to deal with the problem of teleporting in a spot and dying immediately. Well, my concern is if the enemy doesn't react fast enough, it might be their whole team dying immediately, if you've seen any of the crazy Reddit clips that have been floating around when that play is executed safely. So I'm not sure which way they want to go with it on that one, because if you can shoot very quick, it might be OP, but he did just call it a quality of life buff that should help that. So let us know in the comment section down below what you think they're going to be changing with it. Now, next up, we're going to talk about Viper, and pay close attention to how Morello words this one as well. And when you combine it with the changes to the visual upgrades he talked about with Omen, I think you have a better idea of what changes should be coming to Viper as well as Omen.
We will do changes to Viper, but it's going to be something that's faster than like numbers tune, or it takes a little longer than, say, numbers tuning. It's a little bit more substantial, so we want to make sure that we have the time to actually test it and get it right. I'm not in a hurry. That's the thing, is my balance philosophy is if something's weak for a patch, maybe two, it's not the end of the world. especially in this game, where even if you're a little like the balance is a little off, you can still fight each other. So, you know, it's not like you can't play those characters.
Covering gaming on YouTube, I've spent years being a developer whisperer, and I'm going to attempt to employ that skill yet again. Here, Morello is talking about something that isn't simple numbers changes, meaning that it isn't as easy to code as, let's say, Viper's smokes deal more damage to you when you're in them. So because it takes more work and they want to make sure that they bug test it so it runs properly, I think that's pretty obviously implying that it's going to be a visual change, which possibly is the most important thing they should do with Viper. I did notice as the beta went on that there was multiple visual upgrades to the game over time, but it looks like they're going to be making visual upgrades to Omen, Viper, and perhaps even more. One area that sticks out like a sore thumb for me is Viper's ultimate, where I feel if you aren't very skilled at the game, you can get tricked into thinking it's this incredibly powerful ability, and it can be in the right circumstances, but most of the time I think it's meh. So perhaps a visual overhaul to how that ability or her other smokes work in order for them to be more useful for the team using them perhaps is in the works, and you'd imagine that that type of graphical overhaul would need some testing first before they just roll it out. And last point about balance, a debate that I think is going to continue till the end of time. Morello gets bombarded with questions about Raze, the character that gets free kills with her abilities, and does admit that there is a nerf coming to the satchels, but a minor one, specifically saying that the double satchel, as in 2 in a row very quickly, might be getting a nerf. I would imagine a delay between them. I'm a little worried because double satcheling in the air is some of my favorite things in this game, but hey, what do you expect from a filthy Overwatch player? But overall, beyond that, he goes at length to explain to his chat that he doesn't deem Raze to be OP. He can understand at a lower tier of play that she might be, but definitely not at higher tiers. At lower tiers, obviously, aiming alone is hard enough, so running in gung-ho with a grenade or a rocket launcher is gonna rack up free kills most of the time, but he explains that despite going up against high-level players in his own stream, he doesn't really die to any Raze abilities, especially not the rocket launcher, because you should be able to hear it when she pulls it out and run away from it largely. However, I think if you watched my pro Raze guide, you might realize that a player good enough, like Mendo, certainly can create guaranteed engagements for that rocket launcher to do work, so not sure I fully agree, but I have been converted to be a Raze apologist because I just like seeing things explode. I don't know why. It's probably the Junkrat player in me. Next up, Morello had an interesting comment about Sage as perhaps being the premier healer. This is what he said.
I don't think she's the premier healer. I just think it's like, I don't think healing will be the identity, because I think we would make another healer. It's more like it. It's like, don't think we'd make somebody better, but I think we'd make somebody competitive and be like, that's okay.
Now, if you're familiar with the way Riot develops their games, having ability overlap is something that's very core to League of Legends and already is pretty core in Valorant. Here, Morello seems to be implying that there may be another healer in the works, and hey, we already know about a leaked agent that may be coming out on launch day. Perhaps this character that Eddie talked about in his video the other day may be the one that has some different healing abilities. However, I would bring up that the power level of healing in this game, I think, might be a bit overtuned, at least in my humble opinion. And having another character that maybe had some other utility along with healing might be a bit over the top. We could talk more about the state of the entire balance of the game and if there needs to be role restrictions at some point, because if they just keep making healers and healing's the best thing in the game, maybe you just pick all the healers that they release, right? In a team comp, and it's the best way to play, which I don't think is what everyone wants, but we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it. A few more comments Morello left on stream. He does admit that he's not sure if the battle pass will come at launch. Perhaps another dev knows that, but does confirm that skill-based matchmaking will be in the game. And lastly, he comments that in July, there will be a bit of a development slowdown after the launch has stabilized. He himself, and I think a lot of the members of the team, have been working non-stop to bring the game to release, and seems to be saying once the game gets off the ground and stabilizes that there may be an off period before any changes or updates come out. Though Riot Supercakes has already admitted that there is a scheduled summer update as well, so perhaps there will just be a bit of a gap for a few weeks after release before that next content drop comes through. But guys, that's everything for today's video. Are you excited for the game to finally be going for full release next week? It looks like a lot of the visual updates might make the game even look a bit more appealing. I would ask those of you that have been training in the closed beta, honing up your skills and learning up the map knowledge, go easy on those new players that come around on the day of release. Please have mercy, they have families. But that's it for today's video, guys. If you did enjoy it, please be sure to leave it with a like. It really does help us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and click that bell to tell YouTube that you actually want to get notified when our videos come live. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for ClickHeads. We'll see you guys next time.